Wow.
I've never understood why we said that. Anyways, we're off to a good start. Sorry,
Yeah.
you're the host. I'm gonna shut up this time.
Yes, shut the up. Shut the up. When I'm deep in a meeting about analyzing performances about my last videos, and you decide all of a sudden to belt out Hakuna Matata from Lion King for your next audition, it's not exactly the vibe, you know?
Sure. I can understand that. I feel like a one-trick pony sometimes, you know, where, okay, you got this whole thing of like doing jokes about languages, and that's what people know me for. And so I kind of feel like I have to deliver that, or it's not going to perform, or people are just going to like, okay, well, that's not what I signed up for. Bye.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in on this episode of French Kiss, where we talked about working together as a couple and what each of us brings to the table in our creative relationship and how we somehow managed to make that work.
And this was your first hosting episode.
Yeah.
And you killed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I loved it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than
being
last
a
time.
guest.
Yes.
All right.
I hope you guys are ready. This is French Kiss. Ça tourne?
It's turning.
You're turning.
All right.
I'm excited.
Episode 2. You're excited this time?
Yes. So, episode 2. You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah?
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yes.
You're the host today.
I'm the host today.
That's awesome.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to French Kiss. It's not good?
This coffee is 100% cold. Is that not a thermos?
I don't think so.
It's not a thermos. You know, I should have guessed it wasn't a thermos
Ça commence bien.
when it was burning hot when I poured into it. You're not supposed to. All right. Well, we'll know for next time. But at least I have coffee this time. We're progressing.
Yeah, but you're going to be okay with cold coffee?
Yeah. It's not cold. It's tiède, as we say in French. It's lukewarm. What is that? Luke. Like I think the name.
I don't know this word.
Lukewarm.
Lukewarm?
Yeah, the coffee's lukewarm.
Wow.
I've never understood why we said that. Anyways, we're off to a good start. Sorry,
Yeah.
you're the host. I'm gonna shut up this time.
Yes, shut the up. Shut the up. I'm the one talking now.
Go for it.
Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome back to French Kiss, the podcast where we talk about the juicy stuff, love, life, and the messy but beautiful bits in between. My name is Zoe, and today we're getting personal.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've been together for 4 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been married for 5 months already. Time flies when your life is falling apart.
Excuse me? What are you saying? We're telling the world our life is falling apart since we got married? Is that the message?
I'm kidding. This is my
Yeah, it's your
my joke.
no, it's your dicton.
It's my dicton.
It's your
Yes.
saying. It's your life
Yes,
saying.
yes,
But
yes.
usually you don't. Do you always say that?
Yes.
Okay, because I always said time flies when you're having a good time.
Yeah, but it's not funny to me.
It's not
Anyway, so we are a married couple, and here's the thing: being married is an adventure, but being married and working together, it's a whole different ball game, and it can get spicy at times. Let's say we do many things together. We are both performers. Actors, singers. So we sometimes work on plays together. As you know, Loic is a content creator on the internet. I also work in PR, so I am creating a lot of content for companies. So there are quite a few shoots taking place at home because we mainly work from home, both of us. I often help you brainstorming, shooting your videos. I sometimes appear in your videos. You help me with my videos editing. Like we help each other. We now have this joint Instagram account.
Yes.
We also have this podcast now. So there's a lot of things going on, And in terms of logistics, you also have to know that our apartment is amazing. It's very beautiful, but it's like one big room.
Yeah.
Like we don't have like proper doors
Like it's
with
sliding
rooms.
doors that we rarely use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, my bureau, my desk, is like
Your office.
my
which
office.
isn't really an office. It's part of the.
Yeah, but it's like 3 meters away from yours,
Yeah.
and there's no door,
Mm.
no door. So when I'm deep in a meeting about analyzing performances about my last videos, and you decide all of a sudden to belt out Hakuna Matata from Lion King for your next audition, it's not exactly the vibe, you know?
Sure. Sure. I can understand that. All right.
But we somehow make it work. We're here today to share all the behind the scenes in this chaos,
Yeah.
and how we manage to keep it all together most of the time
While working together.
while working together, while being partners in life and being creative associates.
That's a good word. It's funny you should say that because I told my agent yesterday that we were shooting our second episode today. And I told her that our first episode was an hour and 15 minutes long, but we recorded an hour and 40 minutes.
Yes.
And she said, you guys live together. You spend every minute of the day together. What more do you have to say to each other for an hour and 40 minutes of just talking?
That's true.
Well, I think that's why we set up this thing of like preparing questions that we wouldn't normally ask.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also the fact that we know that people that are listening or seeing this don't know us. So obviously we're saying things that we know about each other that they don't necessarily know.
Exactly. So yeah, I have a couple of surprise questions for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's dive in.
Let's go.
Okay, so my first question for you, Loic,
Mm-hmm.
is what has been your all-time favorite project we've worked on together?
Woo. That's a good question because we have worked on a lot of different projects and a lot of different types of projects. You know what? I think that this is the project that I've been the most excited about doing with you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still very early on. We're shooting our second episode right now, but yeah, I don't know. It's really taking shape in a way that I'm just really happy with it. We've seen some rough drafts of the first episode, and I like it. I really enjoy what we've been doing. I'm really happy with this project. I think it's a good idea. So yeah, my first instinct would be to say this, but it's probably because we're deep in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that my real answer is probably gonna have to be Seism, Lungs, which was, I think, the first actual project we did together.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did stuff together at school. We were in a musical together, but that was the first thing that we took on together. I think not even as a couple at first.
No.
Yeah.
The first reading, we were not together
Yeah,
at all.
I have a video of that reading actually in
Yes.
my first apartment in Paris.
Yes.
Um,
Rue Moret.
Rue Moret. Classic.
And why? Was it your...
Favorite?
Yes.
Well, I kind of need to explain the project to the listeners. I think basically, I had done a play in 2017 in college when I was still a young lad. I think I was 18 or 19 years old, and it was a play about a young couple deciding if they wanted to have a baby in today's world. And I actually think it was written in 2011. I think it speaks even more to people today, which is crazy.
I agree.
Yeah, but anyways, I was quite young at the time to play a role because it was written originally for 30-year-old characters, but it worked, and I think it was one of the best things I'd ever done up to that point. That was the feedback that I got from a lot of people. They were like, from all the shows that they had seen me do at college, they were like, dude, this is by far the best thing you've ever done. It was a really hard project for me because essentially it's a play with two people in it, and it goes on for an hour and a half. And I wasn't that close with my co-star.
Mm-hmm.
We got along, but we weren't like close. We didn't have this, connection.
This bond.
Yeah, and we would spend a lot of hours rehearsing the show together. We spent a lot of hours discussing our characters. We just had to spend a lot of time together. And I didn't not enjoy spending that time with her, but it wasn't, like my favorite thing either. But I loved the show. I loved the script. I loved everything about it. I loved the director who actually, sorry, I just whacked you. He actually reminds me a lot of Franck.
Franck?
From La Star Academy. This is probably gonna, and like people won't know what the hell I'm talking about. But Zoe and I watched this. I'm going on a crazy tangent. We're watching. We're cut. We.
Sorry.
He reminds
Go
me a lot
ahead.
of Franck from La Star Academy.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep that in there for the people who have that reference. But anyways, it was an amazing show. I had an amazing time, and I always knew I wanted to do that show when I was older, when I was closer to 30. And when I arrived in Paris, I was 25, 24.
You were 25.
And when I had heard that Les Cours Florent had this thing called Travaux de fin d'études, TFE, which basically, for those who don't speak French, is a project that you present to the school, a personal project, and you can bring on as many people, and it's an optional thing. But essentially, it's a good idea to do that in order to have something ready for when you go out into the real world. You have a project to present. So that's why it's better to do either original shows or shows that you can get the rights to, which I knew was the case for Lungs, which we actually found a French translation to, which was Sisme. And so when I first met you and I saw you acting, I saw how cool you were, and I was like, ooh, I want to do something with her, I immediately thought of Lungs.
Mm-hmm.
And I presented this project to you with a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Arrière-pensée.
There was a little bit of a ulterior motive.
It was a strategic
It was a
move.
strategic move because I wanted to spend more time with you, but I also knew this was gonna be something you would enjoy.
Uh-huh.
With the little that I knew about you, I was like, ooh, I think this is gonna be good. She's gonna like this. So we did our first reading when we were still friends, and you loved it. I remember. And then we showed it to our friend who is now in La Star Academy. I didn't even make the connection. I didn't make the connection. But the director of people are gonna Star Academy is a really famous French reality show, okay? And it's about these people who come out and they sing. It's not like American Idol. But anyways, I'm freaking out about this connection right now. But the director of the version we did in France is in La Star Academy.
Is Marguerite?
And I just said that the first director reminded me of somebody who's on La Star Academy.
Yeah.
And there was no connection.
Crazy. Full circle.
I'm messing this episode up. I'm sorry. Anyways, so Marguerite comes onto the project. Genius. She is such a brilliant director. She has such a brilliant vision of what this show should be. She brings on 2 other amazing directors, assistant directors. So there's 3 directors for 2 actors, and all 3 of them are brilliant in their own way. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, is that they're not like these like 2 yes man directors who are like, yes, Marguerite, I think. They both had their own ideas and visions that they brought on. It was lightning in a bottle, this project for me. And this is why it was one of my favorite things that we did together. And essentially, we ended up performing at Cours Florent for the end of the year thing, Travaux de fin d'études, and it went super well. Marguerite invites the writer of the translator, the adapter of the show in French. She loves it. We didn't know she was there. Thank God, we would have freaked out. But she, raves about it. She tells us, guys, this was really, really good. Like, I've seen this show done a bunch of times. You guys really killed it. And this isn't like we were surprised. We were like, we weren't expecting that. And so we end up doing this show in a professional theater in Neuilly. Mm-hmm. And we don't do it for that long because we end up having a rights issue. Yeah. Which was unfortunate. But we still want to,
You want to bring it back.
We want to bring it back.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing show. Again, I think it speaks volumes today. It's so relevant.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And yeah, for me, it was it's my favorite project we did together too.
Mhm.
And it echoes a lot with our relationship, and even more today because we're about to be parents. And like when we learned that we were gonna have a baby, I was like, I freaked out a little bit because I was like, so we're actually doing it, you know, we're putting another human being on the planet with all its consequences, especially environmental ones.
Mhm.
So I was like, because when you think about your carbon footprint, the worst thing to do is having a baby.
Yeah, you immediately double it.
Yes.
Which is like, yeah, nothing will double your entire carbon footprint from birth to death
Yeah.
more than having, I mean,
Yeah.
nothing else will do that
Yeah.
but having a child.
Yeah. Uh,
And they say this in the show, they're going to have kids.
and they
So
want
it doesn't
kids.
just double your carbon footprint. It
Yeah.
doubles, triples, quadruples. It
Yeah.
exponentially grows.
Yeah. But the beauty of their reflections in this show is that, first of all, it's an act of love having children, and also like they they don't count on them, but like they believe that their kids could be people that would find solutions that
Make a
they would say
positive impact.
exactly, yeah. And they want to plant trees, like they want to be better, you know.
Are you okay?
Oh, of course. It's
Okay.
a what? Wait.
Sorry, I saw a tear in your eye, and
Yeah.
I thought you were
No.
having a little stressful moment or something.
No. I'm all good. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
So my answer is right now, I would say French kiss,
Yes.
but that we've ever done together, which was the question. I think I would say says,
Okay.
and hopefully we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Tuned. Tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. I think some people say that. It depends on your accent.
Okay.
Stay tuned is fine.
Okay.
Stay
Okay.
tuned.
Okay. Well, second question. What do you think is our secret sauce as creative partners, considering we come from very different cultural backgrounds? And where do we clash the most?
Wow, that's a good question. So essentially, what do we bring from our cultural background into the
Creative process.
okay? And how do we make that work?
How do we make that work, and how sometimes we don't succeed?
To answer the first part of that question,
Yeah.
which is what is our secret sauce?
Yeah.
The thing that I went to immediately was listening to each other. I think we have a very good active listening, even though I speak a lot more than you do, which is very apparent in this podcast.
Yeah, but that's not true in life.
No, it's not true in life. You're right. I think the English aspect of it makes it so, but I do tend to take a lot of space. I think that we listen when we're having an active conversation and we're trying to bring in an actual insight into what we're doing, what we're creating. We try to take everything the other person says into consideration without being dismissive.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are things that you say or that I say that the other person might think immediately, not necessarily judgmentally, but might immediately go, I don't think that's a good idea. But I think we have a way of taking it in, and even if our initial reaction would be, that's not a great idea, we still try to make it work or try to put a spin on it to say, maybe that specific idea doesn't work, but there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear what you're saying, and I know what you're trying to do. So let's maybe try to integrate that, but differently, because I'm not sure that it'll work like that. Also, we both have our own expertise about things. You know,
What are they?
well, this is stupid, but for example, I know that you rely on me a lot for like editing stuff. So when
You taught me a lot.
I taught you, thank you. But when you ask me to like review something you've done, and I tell you got to cut. Most of the time, you trust me in that because you're like,
yeah.
oh, okay, like obviously he's done this long enough that he knows that you have to be like efficient, especially because you edit for social media, which is very different. I mean, from editing for a film, where taking time and space is really important. But when you're doing a 1-minute reel, you gotta slice it up. And you immediately, every time I was like, cut that, you were like,
watch time, baby.
exactly. Gotta be efficient.
Efficacité, allez.
So yeah, but then when it comes to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Redaction? Is that the word that I'm looking for?
Writing?
Yeah. I have an ADHD brain, which means that I sometimes something makes sense in my brain and it doesn't make sense for other people. And you're a lot better at making ideas come across clearer when it comes to writing. And so I know for like the podcast, I'll have all these kooky, crazy ideas and I'll be like, and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. So, kind of bringing me back on the right path of like, let's be a little more, let's make it a little clearer because that's a little wacky. So yeah, I think we both bring our own little expertise into the mix. And if we don't listen to each other, then there's no possibility of collaboration. It's just two people kind of talking in the wind and both of us trying to do our own thing and see if it sprouts something. Which isn't I think a good way to collaborate at all. I think the best way to collaborate is, listening.
Okay. Good.
There's a second part of that question though that I didn't answer at all, which was
the second part is and where do we clash the most?
Where do we clash the most?
Yeah.
Ooh. I know exactly where we clash the most. Did you know what I was going to say when you wrote this question?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. This goes back to my ADHD brain 100%. She was nodding. She heard ADHD. She's like, yeah. I have a tendency to almost only function in the moment and as efficiently as possible. Which means that when it comes to like, okay, let's have a 1-hour sit down where we write and focus and organize this.
It's nearly impossible for you.
It's impossible for me, which is another example of something that your expertise come in, where like you're like, no, Loic, let's center back here. Let's come back to what we were trying to do. I have a tendency to have an explosion of ideas that I just vomit out in the span of 3 minutes, and then I go to Facebook or Instagram. I don't go to Facebook.
What the
I go to my phone.
And I go to Skyblog.
And I go on Skype. I just go straight to Skype and I just call my grandmother. That's funny. Sorry. Yeah, and I go straight to Instagram and I start doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Because 3 minutes was enough.
Way enough.
Too much.
Yeah.
I need my brain to be stimulated right now. So that, yeah, that's one issue that we have, and I think, and that's mostly my bad. And I think where you have a sort of blockage is, I think maybe your need for perfection.
Yeah.
You're a perfectionist, which I've always considered myself to be, and I think that was something that blocked me for a really long time. But you're in another league, my lady. I mean, sometimes because shorts functions in a way, or reels, which is the kind of content that I create, it works because of its spontaneity and because, okay, we have this idea, let's shoot it, let's do it. And if we overthink it too much, we end up either not doing it, or it comes to a point where like every short is such a burden.
Yeah.
Because we have to think of all these little things that we just end up making less.
Yeah.
And I think that's perfectionist problem for every and I
101.
think that's a problem, yeah, for every perfectionist. But
Yeah.
I think that, if you don't think you like look good in a video, or if you think that like there's too much clutter behind, which I understand that, but at one point you have to just let it go and just shoot it.
Yeah.
And these are maybe bad examples because if you don't think you look good, I mean, that's important, right? But, we don't have to, I don't know, like we can just do a short where we kind of look kind of, not put together, and it's okay. I feel like if too many people put on makeup and do their hair for every short that they do, it comes off as not so genuine, is my opinion. Whereas people just want to see a real person do videos
Yeah.
or do sketches, and they're not necessarily looking for a top model or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, I'm coming back to, it's important for you to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't want to post things where you're like, I look disgusting. I get that. Totally.
Yeah, but sometimes you get in a vicious circle,
Yeah.
and where you're like, you cannot see yourself anymore without having prepared yourself, like putting makeup, dressing well and stuff. Like, yeah. And it's also depends on the day, like sometimes you just feel good about yourself, just like that. And sometimes you have lack of confidence and you have to work on it.
So even if you like do your hair, get in the shower, do your makeup, everything, you still look at the camera and you're like, I look like a bag of doo-doo.
So that means that this is not the solution.
Yeah. So yeah, I think your holdup is trying to make it too pristine, because then it'll take too long, and obviously this is me coming from the perspective of like, let's do because that's all we can do. But
Yeah.
I also, I want to respect
Of
the
course.
fact that you want it to look good, which is a totally valid thing.
Yeah. I have a couple of things to say.
Go for it, please.
So first of all, regarding your ADHD, I feel for you a lot. And I think that I always try, to look at this in a way of, with a lot of compassion and empathy, because this is just the way you are, and I'm not gonna change you. And also, it brings so much creativity in your work, and I think it's your biggest strength. Like, as you said, you can come up with ideas in like 20 minutes. You're gonna be super efficient, whereas I'm gonna be the one who's gonna think about it, who's gonna
Intellectualize it.
oh yeah, big time. So I would say that I'm like, you're the heart and I'm the brain in our relationship, especially in our working and creative relationship. And I often feel like I would love to be more like you, to let it go, to be more spontaneous, and feel more free. Because, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel a lot of freedom in your creative process.
Yeah, I don't know anymore, actually. I feel like recently, and this is 100% in regards to, my short content. Recently I felt a little more trapped,
Yeah.
because I feel like a one-trick pony sometimes, where, okay, you got this whole thing of like doing jokes about languages, and that's what people know me for. And so I kind of feel like I have to deliver that, or it's not going to perform, or people are just going to like, okay, well, that's not what I signed up for. Bye. So I feel a lot of freedom in that, when I'm alone in front of the camera and I have an idea, I'll just like go nuts, and I'll have a lot of fun with it, and I'll try different things, and I won't care about, the framing or whatever. Like, I'll just kind of let that go. I won't care as much as you will, I think. But yeah, it's an interesting question, because I'm not so sure anymore. But I know what you mean by, I feel freedom when I'm, performing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Less so when I'm writing.
Yeah. But also, I everything it always needs a bit of organization.
Yeah, which I don't have.
Yeah, which I love. I love organization.
Yeah.
This is my German side. So yeah, I think that when we actively try to meet halfway, we're very good at it because we can complement each other a lot.
I think that I think a good answer to this whole question actually, when you said that, I kind of had an epiphany. I think that Seize, the play we did, is a perfect example of how we functioned. It's an hour and a half long show where we both have a lot of lines. You have more than me. And I remember you were the one who had to sort of get like hold me down and be like, you gotta learn all these lines, which I did in time.
And you gotta learn them precisely.
And you gotta learn them precisely, like the wording, the commas, all of that is important. Where I would just be like, well, yeah, the idea's there. Like it sounds like I was just improvising. I wasn't. I knew the line, but I didn't like if the word was hey instead of yo, that's important.
Yeah, it has been written that way for a reason.
Exactly.
I love respecting an author's decision.
And that also depends on the authors. Some authors are, they're okay with you kind of, changing it up a tiny bit.
But that's why I'm not good at improv.
Well, yeah. Basically what I was getting to is that you were really good on the whole homework essentially that we had that our director gave us, or, things that we had to prepare. They would give us, Marguerite would give us assignments like, okay, I want you for every line in this scene to give us the intention behind what you're saying. And you were on top of that. On the flip side, when it came to actually doing exercises during rehearsal, I felt completely free, let go. I would go for it at 1,000 miles per hour, whereas you felt a little more constricted. Yeah. And to bring it back to the cultural thing, I think that there is some there, especially when you said it's kind of my German side. I do think you grew up in a little bit more of a constricted space.
Yeah. Area?
I guess. Whereas for me, there was a bit more freedom in trying and failing. I think this also, it's not just a regional thing. I think, your parents, your mom is your dad's also a perfectionist for sure. And your mom is orthophoniste, which in English is, I don't know what an orthophoniste, let me look it up.
Speaking.
Your mom was a speech therapist.
Speech therapist?
A speech therapist.
There is therapy in
the word, yeah.
In the word.
You like that? Anyways, I think that growing up with parents that were like that, because your mom would make you study hardcore,
like conjugaison stuff,
grammar, vocab. She was very intense about that, from what you've told me.
Yeah, and my father as well.
Yeah, so I think that.
But is it a French thing?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Is it a German thing? I don't know. We joke around, but yeah, I think those are two things definitely that sets us apart in the way we work, but it also complements one another very well. So that's my answer to that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so next question.
Tell me.
Loïc. Be honest. What's something I do during the creative process that secretly drives you nuts and you never told me?
I think this, it's the same answer. I think it's the whole perfectionist thing.
Okay, so
next
question.
I don't know if there's, I like working with you. I remember, but this wasn't something that you did, but I remember during Seize, I think it's interesting to bring this up. We played a couple, but it wasn't us. And I think, but this wasn't something that you do in work that annoyed me, but I remember sometimes I would tense up because I don't even know why, but I remember having a hard time with physical
touch
during the rehearsal process of that show. And I remember talking to the director about it and telling her, yeah, I think it's because there's like this weird thing where like we're playing another couple. It's not us. And I was just kind of thrown off by it because we were in a relationship, but we were playing this other relationship. And I don't know why it kind of, because like I'll have no issue playing a relationship with another actor, but I think the fact that we were in a relationship, but we weren't playing our relationship, or that I had to make a distinction between you and me and M and W, which is the name of the characters. I think, yeah, that was, but it wasn't anything you did, but I remember being, and this is going to seem like a really hardcore word. I don't mean it to be, but sometimes I would be kind of repulsed by like things that we did because I was like, I'm so confused.
Yeah. No, the I think the hard part was that this couple in the show were going through hard stuff, like spoiler alert, losing a baby, mourning, um, being separated, like comment on dit, se séparer,
Yeah,
getting
yeah, breaking up.
breaking up, yeah, and then you have to come back at home
With the same person.
with the same person and be like, ha ha ha, this is our life now, everything's all right.
Yeah.
Like if you dive in the characters' stories, of course that you're gonna be affected by it, and I think it's quite normal to feel a bit
Disoriented, maybe?
yeah yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, that's not at all answer your question, because other than like the whole like perfectionist, like structured way that you work, which again, I think is good that we have that
To a certain extent.
to a certain, it's same as me being all like, "Wah." I think that was something that was hard about working with you, but it wasn't something that you did in work that I disliked.
Okay, gotcha. What's something you've learned from me and from my French way of working that you now use in your solo project? I have a particular answer in mind.
Yeah. I've ever since this has actually been something that I've pondered for a really long time.
What is pondered?
Thought about.
Okay.
Was the difference in work ethics in France versus the US. Because I went to a French high school, French school actually. It was kindergarten to high school. It was the same school, and it was a French establishment. And I remember thinking that the work ethic was like super rigorous. Everything was, like we were saying earlier, it was like super strict, especially because, I had outside activities like soccer, and I had friends who were going to American schools, and I didn't feel like it was the same requirements. It just, because there's standardized testing in the US, and this is a whole other conversation, is like, yeah, education in France and the US. It's a whole other thing. But I felt like they were really good at standardized testing, and that's what they were taught at school. And we were taught how to be super rigorous in our work. Maybe what I'm saying is bullshit.
This is the way you feel.
I had outside activities, and so I had soccer with people who went to American schools, and I just didn't feel like maybe the workload was the same. It just didn't feel like we were going to the same kinds of schools. That was my feeling. It may be wrong. But when I went to art school, which was an American college, and it was an art school, so it's not the same as like a med school.
It was art school.
It was an art school.
Yeah.
There was a huge disconnect between what I expected to have to do in terms of work and what the other students felt like they had to do. Like, I remember students feeling super overwhelmed because they had like 2 tests that week, and I was like, bro, that's like, chill. You're gonna be okay. And I also think that coming out of the back, which is a type of exam that doesn't exist in the US, I think that the closest thing is SATs.
Yeah.
But that's standardized testing, which isn't the same thing, and you don't have to study for it the same way. I felt like when I went to art school, it was finger in the nose, as we would say in France. It was like super chill, super laid back. I spent the chillest 4 years of my life.
Yeah.
And again, it might have been because I was in art school, but I also went to high school with a friend who went to Harvard, Gachot, and he told me, I remember he was like, the hard part was getting into Harvard. Once you're in Harvard, it's like, it's the time of your life. It's super chill. And I was like, what? That's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, with that experience, I felt like, okay, so clearly, the workload in French schools, establishments is superior to the workload in American schools. That being said, in the professional world, I don't think that that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, Americans live to work and French people work to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't mean that they don't work as well, but in the US, there's this thing of like, you have to make it to the top. You have to be number one. You have to make it. Your career is number one, super important. And that's just not the same. That's not the way people think in France.
Mm-hmm.
But education is super important in France. So there's this sort of like thing that doesn't make sense to me where it's like, okay, I guess you're more professionally ambitious in the US, but yet education seems like more important in France. That's the thought that I grew up with that confused me for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that to answer your question of what's something from the way you work as a French person, I think that maybe ambition isn't necessarily a thing that you bring, because that's a very American thing, is like this, as I said, this very career-driven ambition.
Yeah.
But you have this way of working that I've felt was more true in French schools, of like being rigorous and being, being organized and being on top of your stuff, that from an outsider didn't seem like so much the case in the US schools. And again, I went to an art school, so maybe this doesn't translate well at all, but in art school, it really felt like, okay, we're creating stuff, and we really want you to think outside the box and be creative. And it wasn't like, okay, you have to be super strict about the workload and like really be on top of everything. It didn't feel that way.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't have that much homework. We had three days of weekend, which gave us a lot of time to do the work we had to do. So I never felt super overwhelmed. Whereas in high school, I constantly felt overwhelmed. I would cry in my shower before going to school, which is probably true for a lot of high schoolers, but because of the stress of the work that I had. And I never, ever felt that way in college.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's what you have as a French person,
Okay.
is this work ethic.
And what about calendars?
Excuse me? What are you talking about? Calendars? What are you talking about? Calendars?
Planning?
Oh, planning. Well, yes. But again, and this is something we said in the first episode, that we didn't want to make broad general statements. I don't think that this is true for every American person. It's hard to compare cultural differences without making broad statements.
Yes.
General statements. But I will say that what you brought in my relationship is to have a calendar and to be organized. So yeah, it's funny that you say that. But yeah, I was flying by the seat of my pants. I was really just living it day by day. I would get a call like, "Hey, are we still on for the call?" I was like, "What call are you talking about?" We have a Google Meet in like 2 minutes ago. In 2 minutes ago, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I was obviously gonna get on that. What are you talking about?" And
You wouldn't write anything down.
I wouldn't write anything down.
Nothing.
And now my Google Calendar is my life, thanks to you. We also have a couple calendar that we have on the door of the entrance, the entrance doorway, the door of our apartment, the entrance door of our apartment. Why am I having a hard time with this? The door entrance of our apartment.
Yeah.
There's a calendar.
And there are three spaces. One is you, one is me, and one is us.
Yes.
It's great.
It's amazing.
Highly recommend.
So yeah, I went on crazy tangents. I'm really bad at podcasts, actually. I'm realizing.
No. That's perfect. I love it.
Okay.
Okay, next question. What's the hardest part about setting boundaries when we are both on all the time? Are we good at setting boundaries or
When
not?
when we're constantly working and living together, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Ooh. How do we set boundaries? I think that's a funny
We
question
don't.
because
That's
that was going to be the answer. Is I don't think we do. Yeah. How do we set boundary? I think I'm really bad at setting boundaries. Actually, I think that's a huge flaw that I have. Where instead of setting clear boundaries, I'll kind of just make it understood by like shutting down. Um, you know what I'm talking about, where like sometimes you'll like ask me a lot of questions about like either organizing for work or about a question that you have regarding work, and I'll just be really short with my answers and I'll be like, yeah, no, hoping that you will catch on to the fact that I don't want to discuss this right now. And that's how I set my boundary, which is obviously not the way to go. I don't know why that was a British accent there. But
But that's a good thing to realize that.
yeah, I mean, I think I think we both know we don't really have set boundaries. I think the one time where we consciously set boundaries was in regards to Lungs, Seism,
Mhm.
the play that we did, because of that whole thing of, is this our real relationship or is this the show's relationship?
Mhm.
And I remember Marguerite setting up this thing where it's like, okay, in this space, you guys are HF. Outside of that space, you're Zoe and Loic. But there was a clear, there was a clear border and distinction between the two.
Yeah.
And it was really important for us to set that up. But
Like I remember one time we argued
mhm,
in real life as Zoe and Loic. It was so hard for me to
get into
not
character.
bring
Yeah.
not bring our anger and feelings on stage
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
I remember.
I remember that day actually. Yeah, it was hard.
But yeah, I think we can improve a lot on setting boundaries. And personally, I made the pretty recent and conscious decision not to, or at least feel less responsible of you in work.
Yes. Yes.
Because, people like our, and we also work with friends. A friend of ours wrote a play, and we're gonna play in it. And like our friends know that we live together, that we are basically 24/7 together, that we do everything together. And because you're not the most responsive person,
On Facebook Messenger group messages,
even though you improved so much in organization,
I need to be emailed for
please
professional
email,
projects.
yes, please email
Please email
Loic. Please
me.
email him, okay?
But
No,
yeah,
but you improved so much, and I'm very proud of you.
thank you.
Yeah. Anyways, you're still not maybe as on top of your shit as me in terms of organization, planning, and stuff. So when you don't answer, people would come to me,
Mhm.
and tell me, "Can you
Tell him.
tell him, or can you tell me?" Because I'm sure you know when he's available, when he's gonna answer, if he can answer to my text, if he learned his lines. And I used to answer. I used to do the
You would be the messenger.
yeah. I used to do it, and I decided to stop
Yeah,
for my own well-being
for sure.
and for our relationship, because it's not good for us to do that. Like,
Yeah, you're not my babysitter.
yeah, you're not my kid. I'm not your mom.
And I'm on other projects that you're not in.
Yeah, and it goes well.
It goes well. So they shouldn't have to go through you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also.
But it's hard. It's super hard for me not to get involved, because I see you and we're together.
That's not. Well, that's a very clear boundary that you
That's a
set.
huge mental load.
Yeah, it's a huge mental load.
Yeah, and to try not to think about it is a mental load as well.
I get that.
So I'm getting there, and I think we're gonna succeed in that pretty soon.
Yeah. And I think it was really important for you also to let that person know, hey, I'm not his secretary. Like I'm not here to help you get a hold of him. If you need to get his information, get his information.
Yeah, you can call him. Like if I wasn't on the project, you would
What would
find
you
a
do? Yeah.
way to reach out to him.
And I think
So
that was also something that I had to learn to do was to accept that that's what you needed, obviously. Because I do remember there was a time where, somebody would be like, Loic, like we've known this for a while that we were gonna do this. You didn't answer, so we assumed it was okay. And I remember I would be like, you knew about this? And you'd be like, yeah.
yeah,
And I would go, why didn't
yeah.
you tell me? But it's not your job to tell me. And I think that was also, I had to realize, yeah, I mean, obviously it's not her job, but a part of me was like, you could have just told me.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Yeah,
Like
but yeah,
it's just one sentence.
but
It,
it's
it
not your
takes two
job. It's not your
seconds,
job. Yeah,
but it's this and this and this and this.
it adds up.
Yeah. So yeah, very interesting.
I mean, I think that's your response to the boundary that you set in working together, which is it's not your job to look after my planning and if I'm available, and it's not your job. And yeah,
Next question. Okay, I love this one.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
If we could work on a dream project together, what would it be?
Whoa.
The biggest dream ever.
I think that my answer to that would probably be it would probably be the same answer as what my personal dream project would be, which would be to be on a sitcom. I think that it's the best gig as an actor because I love comedy, and there are very few jobs that there are no safe jobs in the acting world. Every single actor is constantly throughout their career looking for the next gig. There's never a time like if you're working at a law firm, although you could get fired, if you work for a law firm, that's your job until you either retire or get fired. But generally, you only get fired if you've done something bad or if, they lay people off. But chances are you could keep that job forever. That never happens in acting unless you're on like ER for 20 seasons or what's that, Law and Order for however many seasons. But even then, chances are it won't last 20 seasons. Very few shows last 20 seasons. And so the safest sort of job you could get is a TV show, but I say safe as in like it's the only job that could potentially go on for years. And I think that having a character that evolves for years would be so much fun, and especially on a sitcom. Like my dream job would have been to be on like Seinfeld or something. It's just like people will create a connection to those characters as if they're a part of their own family. And like Friends, for example, people put that show on in their TV in their living room, and they'll be a part of their lives. And I would love to do that. I love sitcoms. I love watching sitcoms. I did a short-lived sitcom in college, but it was a college-produced sitcom. But it was, I mean, they got the moolah in the
It was
U.S.
legit.
It was legit. And that was the best experience that I'd ever done with a live audience. So yeah, to answer that question, my dream job would be to be on a TV show, on a sitcom for years. I think that would be just the best. And I think that the answer would be the same for my dream job with you. Like, talk about being 24/7 together. Like, this would like bring that to the max. I don't know if any relationship has survived being in a full-time
Sitcom together.
sitcom
Yeah,
together
maybe we
while
should
being
not.
married. But if you ask me right now, that would be my job. I mean, we wrote a pilot for a sitcom, and obviously, why would we write that if, the plan wasn't to do it for
The long term.
a long term? So yeah, I think being on a sitcom with you would be my dream job, big time, my dream project.
Okay.
Because that would, I would love to do that. I love acting with you. I love goofing around with you. Everything we do on this podcast, but it's a scripted TV show. What's not to love? So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
All right.
I love that. How do you think working together has changed our relationship for better or worse?
Interesting, because we've only ever known our relationship as
We
started this relationship by working together.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the basis of our relationship. There have been long periods of time where we didn't work together.
Yeah.
But I think that if done properly, and if you're in a communicating relationship, I think that it could only be a good thing to work together. And I think that was the case for us. I mean, don't get me wrong, and this is going back to seism and lungs. Seism/lungs. There have been times where like I felt overwhelmed by not the amount of time we were spending together, but just there's definitely been times where, you know, the moment I found myself alone, I was like, okay, I think I needed to be alone for a second.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a single time where I was like, okay, I wish you weren't here right now. You know what I mean? Like, please don't be here right now.
House.
So I think that spending more time with you, here's my answer to that question. I don't think that working together necessarily benefited our relationship, although it probably did somehow, but it 100% benefited my professional career working with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I preferred working when I was working with you, but I don't know that working with you enhanced our relationship. It might have, but I can't really know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fact that we have similar interests, that we have a lot of common ground when it comes to artistic points of view, artistic visions, directions, obviously makes the fact that we're together make sense.
It makes me think of
What?
one day
Oh my
we
God.
were
Oh God.
skiing in the mountains, and Loic almost fell from a like a huge cliff, and so you had to remove your ski and to climb up all the way up
Yeah.
with your ski on your shoulder.
Snowboard, but yeah.
Oh yeah, snowboard, sorry. And it took you like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes.
It was hardcore.
It was hardcore. And so he started goofing around and putting a show for me. So I put my phone out.
Which I saw. Very important to the story. I saw you take out your phone. I was like, yee.
And I don't know why I decided to record a time lapse.
A time lapse.
At this
She did a time lapse.
Whereas he was giving his life.
Guys,
Guys,
when I tell you this was the best performance I have ever given in my life, it was 50 minutes of pure gold.
Of pure Loic's show.
Man, I was so proud. I remember.
And I remember I was confused. I was like, should I stop my time lapse to record the actual jokes? I was lost.
If I stop the time lapse is ruined.
It's gonna be bleh. So I just continued, and then
you held your ground.
Yeah. And then you arrived at the top of the hill.
So excited to see the video. I was like, yes, that was 50 minutes of utter torture on my body, but at least we got the best comedy sketch out of it. And when I found out it was a time lapse,
and it was bad.
I was devastated.
It was not even.
It wasn't even a good time lapse.
It was blurred. It was like the light wasn't good. Wow, you got mad. We were on the...
Yeah, which wasn't fair, but I wasn't like mad at you, but I was mad.
Yeah,
I was mad.
But
yeah.
that's so funny. And we were on the télésiège.
We were on
mécanique remonte. I don't know. Wow.
The mechanical chair, the chairlift.
the thing you take to go out to go up the chairlift.
Yeah,
The chairlift. And we wouldn't talk to each other for at least, I don't know, like.
I needed my space.
Yeah, and you told me this sentence. Artistiquement, on ne se comprend pas.
Artistically, we don't understand each other, which has become an iconic line in our relationship. But
sometimes, this happens.
It does happen.
We're not seeing eye to eye. I'm sorry,
but rarely. But yeah, I definitely had a childish reaction, but I was so frustrated. I was so mad, and honestly, there are chances that it wasn't that funny. But when I was doing it, I swear to you, I was like, "This is the funniest thing I've ever done. This character is so funny. This is gonna be amazing. Like, I can't wait to see this video that she's recording from up there." And it was a time lapse.
Yeah. Good old days.
Yeah.
Great memories.
So this is a rare occasion of us not seeing eye to eye artistically. But
artistiquement, on se balade.
But to respond to the question, obviously, we develop communication skills when we work together. Mm-hmm. And I think that is also super beneficial to our relationship.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, any time we spend together is good for the relationship, I think. So
fair enough.
That's my answer.
Last question.
Yeah, we got time for one more. Let's go.
And it's a cute one. If you could give one piece of advice to couples thinking about working together, what would it be?
Super cute.
No?
Yeah, super cute. I wasn't being sarcastic.
Super cute.
Super cute. What advice would I give them? And this is other than really work on your active listening. Because that's super important. Yeah. Maybe know when to draw the line, know when to take a step back, know when it doesn't necessarily work. Working together doesn't have to work for every relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think that's okay. And I don't think it says anything on your relationship.
Yeah.
I think, it depends on what you're working on together, but if for you it doesn't work to see somebody 24/7, which is totally fair, then don't feel the need to. Mm-hmm. I think that a couple that works together well is good, but a couple that doesn't work well together doesn't mean the couple isn't good. Mm-hmm. And I think that the most important thing is to just know when to say no. And to be like, you know what? I don't think this is good for our relationship. I think we're actually, this is making me resent you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's healthy. And my working personality doesn't match with your working personality, and that's okay. And let's just not do that. And let's just keep, especially if you're parents. Like that's a lot of work. You don't have to, on top of that, add work that doesn't make you guys happy. I think that our work brings us a lot of joy. And I don't think that that's also true for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Some people feel like their job is just to make money, and which is totally fair, and to pay the bills, and that's okay. And if you feel like you're dragged into a situation where you have to work with your partner, but it's not bringing you any joy, and you're just now getting to a point where you're associating your relationship to the work that you don't necessarily love, don't do that. Just don't do it. So yeah, that's I think that's the, other than if you work together, make sure to really listen to each other and to sort of give each other as much space. Make it unless one of you wants to take the lead and you're both, you're both on the same page about it, which is totally fine too. Make sure that, you give each other as much space to one another, which isn't necessarily what I'm doing with you on this podcast. I'm going to get there's going to be a lot of comments about that. It's fine.
I'm cool with it.
I accept it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're done. Thank you so much for your answers.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I loved it.
That was my first time answering your questions,
You did a great job.
as this is episode 2, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you for
Thank you.
your questions.
So, yeah, thank you so much for your answers, Loic.
Thank you, wife. Thank you for your questions, wife.
In this episode, we kind of pulled back the curtain on what it's like to leave, to
Hey, was that a chat GPT? Was that a little chat GPT you just threw in there? Pull the curtain.
Come on.
I'm sorry.
C'est trop mignon ça.
I love it.
Rapport au théâtre.
Yeah. With connection with the theater. No, it's great.
Ouais.
It's great. I'm sorry. That's not cool calling you out on that. But
C'est parce que tu m'as vu lire en plus.
yeah, I saw you look down. No, it's a great expression. Pulling back the curtain is great.
Right?
Did you know this expression? Pulling back the
No.
curtain? Yeah.
That's exactly what we were talking about
What?
at the beginning of the episode.
Which was what?
Which I need.
Oh, you need structure?
Yeah. Anyway, so we pulled the curtain back. No?
That works too. We pulled back the curtain.
We pulled back the curtain on what it's like to.
I'm sorry. It's funny because now I'm being like the structure ringer one. I shouldn't be. I'm sorry.
What do you want me to say? Then
This is your episode. I'm gonna shut up now.
Yeah.
Let's just wrap it up.
Okay, so thank you so much for listening. I personally hope that you enjoyed that we pulled back the curtain on what it's like to live, work, create together, and how we somehow make it work.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, guys. We'll be releasing an episode every week, so stay tuned for that.
Hopefully.
Definitely. Unless, we decide that we want to put an end to working together because it's affecting our personal relationship, which is totally okay, as we just said.
Nice.
We're applying what we say on this podcast. So, yeah, hope to see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining.
And this was
French Kiss.